Okay, hello everyone. I'm creating another video on this channel. So today we will learn, actually look into different functions for morphing arrays or manipulating arrays in JavaScript using functions like map, filter, reduce, for each, for off loop. Okay, so we'll start with a very basic thing. Here I'm using an online compiler. This is called a one compiler. You can use if you want, or you can use a regular text editor if you want to use that. So let's start with a basic for loop. Okay, basic for loop. So we'll start here with for, and we need to specify our starting index, which is I equals 0, and we need to specify the range of the iteration. So here in this case I has to be less than books, since that is our array, and we add a length here. Okay. And since in order to increment the value of I, to keep the track of the loop, we need to increase the count of I by 1, so that's why we are using here the increment operator. And for those who already know for loops, they are really aware with it. So now we have to specify what we want to do or what we want to achieve with this. So let's say I just want to see the title of each book from the array. So what I'll do here, I'll call the console first, console.log, and to target each book in the array we need to specify the index. So we have to call the books first, and then we have to pass the value of the I, and now this is indicating each object in the books array. So to get the property, we just have to use the dot operator and just add the name of the property. Okay, so here dot and title, and this should give us the title of each book. Now let's run this code, and we can see here we have the title of each book. And the reason why it is output is like this is because when you are specifying books with bracket sign and number of I, you are basically indicating the specific book. So imagine if this is 0, I is 0, and you're at index of 0, you're referring to the very first book in the list. Okay, and since this is an object, we know how to access the property of any object is using a dot sign and then accessing to that property. So this refers to, let's say, to kill a mockingbird on the first iteration. Now when the value of I changes to 1, it refers to the second object in the list. Okay, and then it becomes the second iteration, which is the 1984. Title becomes specific title is indicated to this title. Okay, 1984. So that's how just it increases by 1 until it reaches to its limit, which is measured by the length of the book. Okay, so we can also see what is the actual length of the book, and we can just copy this piece and paste here. And if I now run this, you can see this is refers to 10. So there are actually total 10 items in the books array. Now that was basic with for loop. Another for loop you can use is called the for off. Okay, actually I think they should really make this compiler big. Full screen. Yeah. Alright. Now we're going to use the for off loop. Okay. In the for off loop, it's really easy to get this kind of output instead of using this long calculation. We just need to add here for let book, because we want to specify item, each item in the books array. So we are adding here let book of books, and here we are going to do something same, but this time instead of, let's say, specifying an index number, we're just going to use the book, because this book is directly referring to each item in the array. Okay, and then we are accessing the property. So if I run this now, you can see the same result here. So this is more handy, I think, than this. Another for loop you can use is for each. So if you directly want to just console log or want to perform any sort of output directly, you can use the for each as well, which is useful. And the first thing it actually takes here is a callback function. So you want to specify a callback function here, and then this callback function can take three parameters. First, it takes the item of the list, then it can also pass the index and the array itself. Okay, so array means you can also access to the array items, I mean the actual array. Okay, so now we don't need that, we just need the item, means we want to access this value of the array. And now instead of calling this item, I can just call this as book, and I can do the same thing here. So this time I want to okay, let's see, we want to just see the book. Okay, book title. So if I run this, we get the same result, nothing different. What I can do here is I can add a concatenation space, and then I want to also see the book published here. Okay, so let's add something like this, a sign. Oh, sorry, I clicked the control save. So if I run this, then I can see the book title with published here, and it actually depends on you how you want to format it. So that was basic loops with for loop. Now let's look at the advanced functions like filtering, map, reduce. So let's say you only want to see books that have been published after the 1937, okay, or maybe after 1997. So what we are going to see is first the filter function. So what filter does is that it creates a new array with filtered values. So let's call this filtered books, and here we want to first mention the books array and the filter function. Now the filter function is similar to for each loop, it takes a callback function. Now instead of using the array regular function, let's actually see with the regular function. So it takes a callback function that has first the item, then index, and then the array itself, but we don't need that, we just need the item. And now we want to get books that have been published after 1997. So I just need this property here, and I want to return, because we are actually creating a new array here. So it's not directly mutating the actual array, it's just creating a new array with filtered values. Okay, so return book, actually instead of item this should be book dot published here greater than 1997. So this statement evaluates to a true or false, and if a certain item meets to the condition, that item will be returned, and that's only the condition here. So if a specific book, for example like this book, okay, this book has a publication year of 2003. So since it has been published after 2003, this matches to this condition, and that's why this book Da Vinci Code should be written. So let's see the output by a console log. So now let's run the function, and we can see an array with filtered values. Just like I said before, we are seeing the Vinci Code and the kite runner because these two specific item meets the condition that we specified in the filtered books. Okay, and then you can also actually add not one but more to it, like say you want to see something between 1949 and maybe between 1949 to 2003. So you want to see book published after 1949 and book published year is less than 2003, means you want to see books that have been published between 1949 and 2003, not in 1949 or 2003, before that. Okay, so let's run this, and we have some books here that have been published after the 1949 but before 2003. Okay, so that was the filter function. Let's comment this out. Now we want to see the map function. So map is a very useful function, and when you will be working with React, map will really become the main function for you to render a list of items. Okay, so you have to learn about the map really well, and it's not that complicated. It's just similar to the filter function, but it works differently. It returns a new array. It actually morphs the return value. Okay, so instead of working with books, let's add something else here. Let's say ages. Okay, so we have a list of ages. Let's say we have 21, maybe 10, maybe 12, maybe 18, maybe let's say 30, maybe 54, 66, and 70, something like that. And now you are thinking about, let's say we should have an array that has twice value of each item. Okay, so what we can do here is that let's say const ages times 2. So we want to times with 2 of each item, so we'll call ages first, which is our array, and then we want to call the map function. So similar to filter function, you can use here function, but I'm thinking about, let's say we can use a different function here. I mean, like we use the arrow function, and we can specify each item as age from the ages, and then in the curly braces you can specify the return format should be age into 2, And now let's see what our new formatted array looks like. Okay, so if I run this, okay, so this is something said unexpected identifier age. Oh, I see what happened. My arrow function was wrongly typed. Okay, now if I run this, we can see that each item, let's say 21 times 2 is 42, 10 times 2 is 20, so each item has been times by 2 and returned in new format as an array. And to be more making it more smaller, we can actually remove this curly braces, and then we can also remove this return statement. Since we have only one expression here, we don't need curly braces. And now since we are just using only one parameter, we can just remove this parenthesis as well. And now if I run this, it returns me the same result. Okay, so this is more shortcut than that. So this is what map does. Now we are going to look at the sort function. So I'll just keep ages because that comes really handy. Now the sort follows some specific pattern here. So we can add here, say, sorted array, because we want to sort the item. So ages dot sort, and here it has a similar thing. It has a callback function, but you want to specify the first and the second value, and you want to perform a calculation in between them that returns the evaluation to either positive one or negative one. Okay, so for example, let's say I want to see the from highest to lowest. Okay, or maybe from the lowest to highest. How would I sort that? So this callback function that sort takes two parameters first, that is called, we can specify as a or and b, like first value and the second value. And so to compare them, we need an evaluation here that returns some kind of either positive one or minus one. Okay, so I can add here, let's say a minus b, and then maybe not actually a minus b, let's say evaluates to a is greater than b, and we can use a ternary operator here, let's say 1, and if not, then minus 1. So you can think of like a is the first value, b is the second value. That's how it's written. So let's see how this works. Sorted array, and if I run this, yeah, now we can see it started with 10, then it went to 12, then 18, 21, 30, 54, 66, 70. Okay, so it checked if the first value is greater than the second value, then return 1, otherwise return minus 1. And that's how it's sorting. If you want to do in the reverse, let's say you want to see the b is greater than 1 a, and then maybe let's say 1. Okay, so now if b is greater than a, then you want to put 1 and then negative 1. So we have 70 first, then 66, then 54. So this is from highest to lowest, and the first thing we done was the lowest to highest. Okay, so if I run this, it gives us the previous result. So let's comment this out, and now we will look into the last function, of this video, which is the reduce. Now reduce can be simple and as well as very much complicated. So let's say reduce it value. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to check the summation of the edges, and to get that we can use the reduce. Let's go ahead and first see how would we do something like that without the reduce function. So let's say let total equals to 0, and then you might want to start with a for loop. Okay, so for let I equals to 0, then we have the edges dot length, and since I want to keep the track of the range, then we have to specify the condition, that is I is less than edges length and I plus plus for incrementing the value of I. Now to specify the value, we have to call the edges array first and pass the index number. Then we want to add it with the total. Okay, so to repeat that, we want to add total plus equals with the value, current value. Okay, now after this calculation, I want to console log the total. Okay, so if I now run this, I can see it is returning 281. Let's see what happens when we use the reduce and how much it is useful. Then this is, so we can add a variable here called reduce it value, and here we want to mention the array, and then we want to call the reduce function. Now similar to filter and map, this takes a callback function, but I'm going to use an array, and this callback function takes two parameters. First it takes the total, then it takes the incoming value. Okay, so incoming, or maybe let's say value means these values. Okay, and what we want to evaluate here is we want to just plus the total with our value, but since total needs a specific starting point, we want to give it as 0. So here this 0 is similar to specifying total as 0. Okay, and total plus value means that total is starting with 0, then it will be plus with 21, then next value comes, that will be plus with 10, and similar to this result, reduced value should give us 281 as well. Okay, 281 actually, console.log, and then I just pass the reduced value, and let's go ahead and run this, and we have a similar thing here. Just to be more testing purpose, let's add, let's say 32. Okay, and now if I run this, you see now the value changes to 330. Okay, so that's how you would use the reduced here in case of numbers. Now what if you want to actually get the summation of published years from the books here? How would you do that? It's similar, it's just you have to use, let's say, books, and here I'll mention this instead of value as book. Okay, now we want to plus with the book, but we want to mention the property also, because published year contains the numeric value. Okay, and you have the starting point, which is 0, which is you let total equals to 0. Okay, and I think that should give us the reduced value, something like this, 19,526. So I think that's total about how to use map filter reduce, and also some specific for loops like for off and for each. If you have any questions, doubts, leave that in the comment. I'll make sure to reply you guys, give you answers as soon as possible. Thank you very much.